Hello everybody, hopefully you can hear me. My name is Dr. Carri Westgarth and I am an APBC member and I am running your Ask the Expert tonight. We'll give a few minutes just for everybody to join us. Welcome anybody who's joining us. We'll just give it a few more moments for people to join us. We've got Rosie is here. Well, hello Rosie. We've got Amy, we've got Nikki. That's fantastic. And the comments are coming up on my screen, which is excellent. So if you have any questions to ask me as we're talking, or any questions that you've got ready for me already, do let me know in the comments and I will have a crack at answering them. So we'll get started then. My name is Carri Westgarth. I am a full member of the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors. I have spent many years teaching dog training classes and spent some time seeing behaviour consultations. But my main job is senior lecturer in human-animal interaction at the University of Liverpool, where I do lots of research into the human-animal relationship, in particular dog ownership, particular what are the health impacts for people of owning dogs, whether that be positive impacts or negative impacts, and how can we best manage that situation to maximize the benefits of owning dogs and minimize the risks of owning dogs. And I also do lots of research into companion animal welfare as well, because obviously it's not just all about the owner, it's about the animal as well, and the two should hopefully come together and have a beautiful relationship that benefits both. I used to be an assistance dog trainer for an assistance dog charity, so I've got practical experience there as well, training animals, training dogs to assist people with their health needs. And I've been invited today to lead the APBC Ask the Expert session because I have a book that was been published just a few days ago called The Happy Dog Owner. And so I'm hoping that you can all get a taste of what might be in that book that might be really interesting to you. And I wanted to write this book because there's a lot of scientific information out there. There's lots of expert knowledge and scientific studies coming out, especially over the last sort of 10 years. It's exploded really in terms of both the health impacts of interacting with animals, impact on our health, our mental well-being, for example, but also from understanding companion animal welfare, understanding how the way we own dogs impacts their welfare. And there's also an increasing recognition that there are ways that owning dogs can make us feel happier and healthier, and perhaps people wanting to train their dogs to assist with their daily lives, especially if they've got sort of a chronic condition or a disability. So I thought there was a need for a guide out there that summarizes what we know, what we don't know, what the best scientific support is, what the best expert guidance is around all of these issues. so that anybody looking to buy a dog, they want a dog, or anybody looking who's already got their own dog and wanting to think about how to train their dog, or anybody who's got a dog and is perhaps experienced problems, or wanting to take their relationship to the next level and train their dog to help them with particular tasks, to help with their disabilities, those sorts of things. That information will be in this book to give a guide. Now, obviously, that's a lot of topics to cover in one book. So what it tends to do is cover the main things. In some parts, it goes into much detail, but then also point you in the direction of really good resources to help you further in that, and in the direction of other good books that have been written. So there's some fantastic books that have been written on dog welfare, for example, that goes into more detail in that. So I've had some questions that have been sent before this event, and then we'll also, if you've got any questions that you could put in the chat for me, that would be fantastic. And hopefully we'll go on till about past. So one question I've been given is, what is the most important thing an owner can do to enhance the dog owner relationship? Well, in terms of the health benefits of owning dogs, and something that I also think is important for dog welfare, and something that comes out in the literature as being very strongly related to the dog owner relationship, is dog walking. So if you are going to achieve the mental health benefits of owning a dog, yes, they can give us companionship, and they can make us feel that unconditional love, that security, just gives us that physical comfort. But we all know that being out in nature and doing physical activity is really important for mental health. And people who walk their dogs say that dog walking is a really important stress relieving activity. People love watching. The research participants I've interviewed told me how important it is to watch their dog running around, having a good time, having fun. And for that vicarious pleasure, that seeing someone else having fun that you love makes you feel good about yourself. Also, when it comes to the physical health benefits, such as reduced cardiovascular disease risk, increased physical activity levels, again, all of this comes if you're walking your dog. If you don't walk your dog, then you're not necessarily going to be getting the best benefits you can get out of owning a dog. Another important thing to enhance your relationship with your dog is to make sure you use reward-based training methods. So the scientific research is definitely starting to show that there is a strong association between using punishment and aversive training methods and having dogs have behavior problems, and also the emotional closeness that you experience when people rate the dog owner relationship, the emotional closeness they experience with the dog and the positive interactions they experience with the dog is lower if they're using aversive training methods. So it's important that we think about rewarding the behavior we like rather than trying to punish the behavior we don't like. And I talk a lot about that in this book and the science behind that. We have a question from Lisa. She says, I have a reactive dog that lunges and barks at other dogs. Why does she bite my other dog when she sees another dog? I have to keep them apart at arm's length, which is very difficult. Where can I start to stop her biting my other dog? She only does this whilst on a lead and when she sees another dog. So it's really hard for me to comment on a particular behaviour cases, but quite one of the types of aggression that can be seen towards people and towards other dogs is something we call redirected aggression. So when your dog is frustrated, perhaps, or nervous around seeing another dog, perhaps because it can't do anything about that, and like you say, it's trapped on a lead. I've interviewed one of the interviews I did with a dog bite victim was exactly this situation. The dog saw another dog in the distance, got very frustrated and excited and everything about what was going on, and reacted to this other dog and turned around and bit the dog walker on the leg as well. So this is something called redirected aggression that we see. So what you need to think about doing with any behavior problem, obviously I can't go into detail about your specific situation without meeting the dog and understanding you and things like that. So I would definitely recommend that you see a pet behavior counsellor, an APVC member for this. But the general idea is whatever behavior you've got that you don't like, what can you train the dog to do instead that A, makes the dog feel better about that situation? Because it's, if your dog is seeing another dog and is getting aggressive and excited and frustrated and things like that, obviously it needs to change that emotion. But also, what can you train your animal to do that is incompatible with getting reactive to the other dog? So in my book, I talk about this situation that I had, kind of similar, not redirected aggression, but I've had situations with my dogs getting reactive to other dogs that they've seen. Perhaps after my little dog, she's been attacked a few times, so she thinks in her mind she has a reason to be reactive to other dogs. And my old dog started to get a bit funny around, when she was younger. She started to get a bit funny around other dogs. She would sniff and say hello. And I talk about this in the book. This is Jasmine. She would sniff and say hello to other dogs, and then just as the interaction was finishing, she'd have a little sort of snap at them. So I had the same situation with another of my older dogs, Ben. He was a collie, and he started going up and circling dogs and doing the very collie herding thing. And that obviously didn't get him in very good situations, because dogs don't like being circled like that and him getting close and getting collyish. So on all these situations, what I'm teaching the dog to do is to look at me instead. So whenever you see another dog, look at me, which is an alternative thing to kicking off at that dog that's over there. You look at mum and you get a treat. For Ben, his reward was a tennis ball. That's what he realised. He wasn't bothered about food. He wanted a tennis ball. So he learned, as soon as he clocked another dog in the distance, I was going to produce his tennis ball, and he would just look at me instead for the tennis ball. With Roxy and with Jasmine, who are much more food orientated, with them, and Roxy, I'm still working on this now with her. When they see the other dog, instead they look at me and they get a food treat. And very quickly, the dogs will learn to look at you rather than looking at that other dog. And they are changing their emotion because they're having a rewarding experience rather than it all kicking off and having a negative experience again. But they're also learning a new behavior. They learn to look at you for a treat instead. So that's what I would advise for that sort of situation, any reactivity. But obviously, there's going to be nuances to that, and exactly what would be advised for you in your particular situation will require full behaviour consultation. But generally thinking about those lines of, whenever I've got a behaviour problem, a behaviour I don't like with that my dog is displaying, what emotion is there that's going on there, and how can I change that emotion to a more positive one for the dog so it feels less of a need to display that behavior? And what alternative behavior can I teach the dog in that situation that's incompatible with doing the thing that's a problem? Do we have any more questions from people? We've got Claire here. Claire says hello. I would like to publicly thank Claire for something that she has contributed to this book. So in this, and two people that have read the book so far have both pointed out that one of their favourite things in the book is what Claire has contributed. So Claire has created, if I can find it, a flowchart around finding responsibly bred pedigree puppy in the UK, because it can be quite difficult to find a dog that has been bred genetically and temperamentally and well socialized by an experienced breeder, and that has had all the health tests that are available to be done for different breeds. So, I mean, obviously, although depending on the situation and the exact breed, the guidance would vary, but as a general guide, there's a lovely flow diagram in there to help people. Which this actually leads to one of the other questions that I've been given. What do you wish all dog owners knew? I think as dog trainers, one of the things that comes up from our experiences working with dog owners is that there is a kind of myth that is all to do with being a good dog owner. If you're just a good dog owner, you can solve all problems and your dog will be brilliant. So, I mean, I've worked in animal rescue many years ago, and I've seen, you know, dogs that have just attacked the rescue workers, and the member of public is saying, oh, let me take the dog home, he just needs some love, I can sort it out, if it just needs a good home. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. The scientific evidence very strongly shows that the temperament of an animal and the early socialization period before you've even got the dog is incredibly important for how the dog is going to behave later on. And so by the time you bring the puppy home at 8 weeks old, it's already been within the critical socialization period it's had at the breeders. And within that period, it needs to have been exposed to the daily experiences it's going to need to understand in life. It needs to be been exposed to lots of people, sights and sounds. And good breeders will go out of their way to follow very specific programs of socializations that there are available to make sure their puppies have the best start in life before they reach the owners. And then when you get the dog as well, those first few weeks you've had the dog is also a continuation of that critical socialization period. And this a lot of owners don't understand this. So by the time they come along with an adolescent dog to a dog training class, yes, you can work with what you've got, but you can't turn back time. You never get that time back. And also the temperament of the parents is really important. So we did a systematic review of the literature relating to human-directed dog aggression and looked at that scientific literature to try and find what risk factors there were for aggression towards people. And there was lots of different studies that were conducted, over 200 studies. But what we found was that the only real consistent evidence that there was from a robust study design is basically temperament genetics of aggression. So aggression is inherited. So if the mother or the father of the puppy or the breeding lines have tendencies towards aggression, then the puppy will have a tendency towards aggressive behavior later in life as well. So, you know, you've got what you have to work with, and there's a lot you can do with that. But it's so incredibly important that you make the correct choices in the first place as to where you source your puppy from, exactly which puppy it is, from what litter, from what parents. And we did a study with the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors a few years ago, where we got people to submit. We got the pet behaviourist to submit case dogs that had presented for behavior problems, and we matched those to control dogs that also filled in the same survey, and these control dogs came from the same veterinary practice, but they were just visiting for, say, vaccinations. If they were to develop a behavior problems, they would likely have been very likely to seek behavioral help for this, and they would have been referred to that behavior counsellor. So that's a case control study. So the controls are comparable to the cases. The only difference there is that the cases had developed behavior problems and the controls hadn't developed behavior problems. But if they had, they would have been referred and ended up as a case. And so doing that sort of comparison at statistical level, we showed that the cases of dogs that had developed behavior problems were, I think, 4 times more likely than the controls, that the owners did not view the parents of the puppy, the mother or the father. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to view the parents of the puppy to reduce your risk of later behavior problems, because this is where you can assess the temperament of the puppy. You can assess what the temperament of the parents are, and get to know those animals and think, is this the type of dog that I want in my home? Because the likelihood is that genetics tendencies are going to be passed on. You can't just fix everything by being a good dog owner. You can't, if your dog isn't very social with other dogs or with people, you can't make him suddenly like people. You can definitely improve his behavior and learn how to manage that, but you're not going to change his underlying personality. So yes, that's the thing that I wish, and lots of dog trainers, wish all dog owners knew, how important that genetics and early socialization is for the temperament and behavior problems. And Beth says, makes me nervous for what's going to come with the increase in people getting puppies over lockdown. Yes, so there's a chapter in this book about pets and pandemics for this reason. So from reading the book, hopefully by the time readers get to the chapter on pets and pandemics, again, like I've just explained, they would understand how important that early socialization period and that time at the breeders, and that socialization once you get the puppy home as well. So making sure it gets to meet lots of people, goes out to puppy training classes. I take my dogs to dog training classes. It's not that I don't know how to train my dog. I know full well how to train the dog. It's about the socialization. It's about learning to listen to me in that environment. It's about being exposed to different places, different people. And the concern that behaviorists have is that what's happening is there's lots of dogs that have been bred potentially from puppy farms in order to meet this demand. And the science shows that animals bred in puppy farms, large breeding kennel establishments, have much poorer behavior and health later on in life. And then you compound that with the impact of lack of socialization, with either within the breeders, because they couldn't have had visitors around, they couldn't go and take the puppies out to the shops, the garden centres, for example, which kind of things that all good breeders do. Well, that hasn't been able to be done. And then also when the owners have got the dog home, they haven't had visitors to the house during lockdown. They haven't been able to go out, walk around the outdoor shopping centres, for example, with the dogs. And what is this going to be the consequences for this? So we have another question. Needhi says, related to this, any tips for socialization in places where there's still a lockdown? So again, in the book, we have a nice little list here. That was, it's not mine. Again, it's interesting the things that they say it takes a village, and definitely lots of different people have contributed to this. But another APBC member, I think Han Grice, has got a lovely thing called puppy bingo, puppy socialization bingo. And so there's lots of things there that you can do in this table with your dog during a lockdown situation. For example, you can take your puppy to the park and watch others from afar. You can listen to recordings of people chatting. You can see and hear dogs on the TV and reward your puppy. You can blow bubbles for your puppy to chase. That's a fun one. But it's a strange experience. If you'd never seen a bubble before, it can be quite scary, perhaps. So it's not, when it comes to socialization, it's not that you have to give your puppy absolutely everything it could ever possibly experience, what you need to do is give it a number of new experiences so that it learns that new things are not to be frightened of. New things generally turn out to be absolutely fine and not scary, because you can't possibly socialize into everything. So even if you can't take your puppy out to lots of places you might want to during this socialization period in lockdown, the more new experiences you can give them, the better. You could put on a wig, draw on a mustache or beard. You can teach your puppy to wear their harness. You can practice getting somebody else from your house to knock on the door or ring the bell, and then you feed puppy treats on their bed, so that when visitors do start coming around and knocking on that door and ringing their bell, they're not so worried by it. For example, you can go for car rides. So there's lots of good ideas in there. Olivia asks, where can we find some of these research papers? So pretty much all of my research is open access, which means it's freely available for anybody to see. It's not behind a paywall. Very, very rarely, because I do a lot of unfunded research as well as funded research. Very, very rarely, I can't find the money from somewhere to make the paper open access, because the publisher, if your paper is what we call open access, you have to pay for it to be made that way, because otherwise normally the publisher would be getting money from subscriptions, for example, for universities to subscribe to that journal to see that paper. So to see any of my research, you can just Google my name and you can find my University of Liverpool research profile. It's got a list of all my publications, which should take you there. In the book, what I have done in the book is every time I've talked about some science and some research studies, I have put all of the names and the links to. Oh, there's a big set of notes of references, which the publisher was like, that's far too many, but I was like, this is scientific evidence-based book, so there are lots and lots there that you can look up there. Malgazata Els, hello Maz. Maz would like to know if you had to summarize everything into just one piece of advice to potential dog owners, what would it be? In terms of dog training, it would be reward the behavior you like, ignore the behavior you don't like, interrupt any behavior you can't ignore, because you just can't let them carry on doing that, because that's a bad habit and they're not having a good time. Interrupt anything you can't ignore and redirect them onto what they should be doing instead. I think it's this is something as dog owners, it's really, really hard to do, because when they're doing the wrong thing, we notice them because they're annoying us. They're barking, they're either chewed up something, whatever. When they are doing the right thing, they are lying down sweetly, quietly, or when they don't bark at somebody, they see. When they don't bark at that dog they see out on a walk, we tend to not notice. So you've got to get really, really good at remembering to watch your dog, observe them. When you see a behavior you like, which is often not doing the wrong thing in a particular situation, say when you see a dog in the distance, you need to reward the behavior you like, and then they will do that more and more. Ignoring the behavior you don't like is that second principle. If you ignore a behavior, hopefully they should just give up. It will die out, because if it's not being rewarded. There is a slight difficulty with that, in that sometimes behaviors are self-rewarding, so barking, chewing, things like that. Sometimes they're having too much fun even though you're not rewarding the behavior, in which case you need to gently interrupt that behavior. A word such as ah can be helpful, because it's not got the telling off connotations of saying no. And is a bit sort of interrupt but get their attention, but it kind of leads you to then hesitate as to what it is that you should actually be telling them to do. So, for example, in the book, I talk about a puppy that I used to have called Logan. He was a chocolate Labrador, and as a chocolate Labrador, he liked to chew things. And I wasn't used to having a puppy in the house, and I kept forgetting to take my slippers out of the way. So it's important to set yourself up for success when it comes to dog training. So the successful setting up would be, don't leave your slippers in the way when you have a puppy around who's going to try and pick them up and chew them. But I wasn't very successful at that. I did try a lot, but every time I did see him pick up my slipper and start to chew on it, what I would do is, I couldn't obviously let that carry on. So I interrupt the behavior by going over to him, and I would swap the slipper for a ragger or a toy or a chew or something he could do. So I'm interrupting the behavior with, don't want you doing that, but here's what I would like you to do instead. After a few days, I watched Logan go over to my slipper on the floor, look at it, look at his chew, look at the slipper, look at his chew, go pick up his chew and do that instead, because he had learnt that there's no point chewing that slipper that she stupidly left on the floor again, because she's a human and she's an idiot, because she's only going to interrupt me and swap that, and she's going to give me this other thing to do instead, and that's what I should be doing. Okay, I'm going to do Emma's first and then come back to you, Maz. Emma Louise says, what would you recommend for a dog that gets separation anxiety and destroys the doormat and chews the door when left alone in the house? She's remaining rescue and we've had her since January. Okay, so again, it's hard for me to comment on individual cases because it's important that you see a pet behaviour counsellor who will go through a whole history taking, find out all the details, and also that this is done on veterinary referral. Daniel Mills, in the book again, we talk about, and there's a nice quote from him about pain being involved in, he thinks about 70% of the cases for behaviour that gets referred to him. And we've got to remember that these are cases that have already been to the vet and been checked, and then they're referred to a behaviourist as being behavioural. But it actually still, he finds pain. He's a vet and a behaviourist. He finds pain to be involved in majority of those cases as well. So first, and what made me think of this is the separation thing. If they, he has a case we talk about in the book where there was a dog that was really struggling with separation anxiety. And they just couldn't make any progress, and it turned out the dog had pain, and every time it laid down it was having pain, and it started doing these digging behaviors, and a lot of the destruction that was coming with the separation related problem was related to the pain it was experiencing in its leg. And it was only when it was on pain relief that they managed to then move forward properly with the training program to teach it to be left alone. So that's a sort of beside. Do make sure you get a veterinary referral and see a behaviourist for that reason. But again, generally with separation anxiety, we're not very good at teaching dogs what we want them to do. You know, they can be very used to being around us all day, and then we leave the house suddenly and they're on their own. So we need to actively, especially with these lockdown puppies, and with all the dogs that have just got so used to us being at home at the moment, need to actively train them to be left alone. If they are really, really, really anxious, and you cannot even get to the point where you walk out the door, back in, out the door, back in, out the door, back in, then you might need to think about what is it that can you do in conjunction with a behaviourist to lower your dog's stress levels even more, so that they can cope with just very brief periods of being left alone. And when I say left alone, I don't mean you go out for half an hour. I mean, can your dog be in that other room whilst you walk into the other room, shut the door, open the door and walk back? You have to practice that all the time, making sure that they are very gradually getting used to just being left alone on their own. So I hope that helps with that. It sounds like, as a Romanian rescue, she's struggling with, the change of everything, being with you and then being left alone. And I would recommend, particularly because you say how serious that is, destroying the doormats and chewing the doors, that you seek professional behavioural advice from an APVC member near you for that. We've got all the questions coming in here now, haven't we? So I'll go back to Maz's question. I've had many years of dog owning training and researching dog-related behaviours and dog-human relationships. What do you consider to be your greatest dog-related achievement and success story? And why? Oh, this is hard, isn't it, when you're doing these things live and there's suddenly all these questions. My greatest achievement was, I think, this book. Bringing it all of those stories and anecdotes and experiences into one book, and also bringing together not just my research and my experiences, but the research from people, the top leaders in their field, top scientists all around the world, have all have been contributing to this book, whether it's just their research reference or I've interviewed them in the book and got some quotes from them as well. So that's a bit of a cop-out, Maz, and I'll try and think is there any other things I'm most proud of in terms of dog stuff. Getting a Chihuahua cross pug to do agility and go through weaves and stuff is a pretty achievement as well. Okay. Vicky says, I've started your book, really enjoying it, particularly appreciate how well referenced it is. Good. I'm glad you say that, because it's nothing more annoying to me as a scientist as reading something and then not being able to find the reference to it. So I'm hoping to point you all in the places to go and see more information on particular studies. Vicky says, is there any research compared the incidence of behavioural issues in single dog households versus multi-dog households? Not that there probably is. It's not something I wrote about in the book so much. I can't think off the top of my head any particular about behavioural issues. There's certainly something about siblings in terms of not so much research on this, but if you get two puppies together that are siblings, littermate syndrome, that is thought to be problematic. And I write about a case study in this book as well. My neighbours who has got two cockapoos. They're 1 to 2 years old now. I can't remember whether they're 2 yet. But yeah, she found we predicted that might be challenging having two brothers, and it was challenging for her. And I go through the what happened with her in the book. In terms of single dog households versus multi-dog households, in terms of motivation to walk your dogs, this is something that's why I love doing research. I expected if you if you owned more than one dog, I thought then you would dog walk more, because if you own more than one dog, perhaps you really like dogs and dogs is a big hobby of yours and therefore you love going out walking. Actually, single dogs are walked more frequently than multiple dog households. So there seems to be perhaps a perception that two dogs have got each other, they can play together in the garden, for example, and also perhaps it's slightly harder walking two dogs. I had 3 dogs at one point, and I can definitely say that got harder. Keeping, you've only got 2 eyes, it's very hard to keep track of what a third one is doing as well. So off the top of my head, that's what I was thinking about particular issues in single dog households versus multi-dog households. But I can have a look and get back to you on that, Vicky, see if there's any particular research. If there is, I imagine it might be to do with James Serple's CBARC survey. So if you go to the CBARC, the Canine Behavioral Research Assessment Questionnaire, something like that. Behavioural assessment and research questionnaire. Yeah, canine behavioural assessment and research questionnaire. There's a lot of publications in that list that have used that standardised questionnaire survey. And so that measures a standardised way of asking owners about a number of different behavioural problems in dogs, or behaviours in general in dogs. And it rates these, and then you can compare that against other questions that you've asked. So there may be a study, if there was going to be a study on single dog households versus multi-dog households, if there was evidence, I would expect that might be where it has come from, the CBARC survey. Okay, well, we were supposed to go to past, and it's now 39. Unless there's any other burning question, I think they take a few seconds to pop up for me. But if there's, unless there's any other burning questions, yeah, it's a whole lot of science and experts from all around the world, and my personal experiences training different dogs, all in this book, The Happy Dog Owner. You get it from any good bookshop, and I hope that you've enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.